life has been different. I mean, it changed the course of everything for me. Mm-hmm. You know, it was the first time I was truly disappointed.
Oh God, yes.
Wow.
It was my Star Wars prequels.
Definitely.
Yeah.
A lot of this movie, it's the transition, the harsh jolt into adulthood where, hey, everything's not going to work out. Sometimes.
It was the first, and this is also, you know, we're right before Iron Man, right? So this is before the constant, you know, superhero, there's an up and there's a down, and maybe this one's a little disappointing. And blah,
Yeah,
blah, blah.
this was just a year.
Yeah.
Before Iron Man.
1 year before Iron Man. And it was genuinely, it was the first time, it was two things. It was the first time I was actively hyped for something where I was involved in the fandom and I was on the forums and I was psyched and I watched every piece of material that came out. And it was also the first time I was crushed by something I was excited for.
I saw this in theaters legitimately 6 times.
I saw it 7 times. Yeah.
I think just because I
saw it a lot.
It.
I can't remember how many it was, but I saw it an awful lot. And like everyone around me was going, "It's not good," and I was like, "No, it is. It's good. It's good."
Yeah.
And I just had to I watched it over and over again to try and find something in it that I could convince myself with, but it's just,
dude, it was
finally come to terms with it 10 years later.
It was the stages of grief, man. You really had to go through it. We recently put it on very casually. Like, we weren't sitting and watching it. We were like hanging out and everything, but we put it on, and I remember going into it because I probably haven't watched that movie in, I mean, at least 5 years. Like, actually sat and watched it, maybe 6 years. Like, we put it on and I was thinking, okay, I maybe have some distance. You know, I've seen so many superhero movies over the last 10 years. Maybe I can watch this again and be like, you know what? It's at least fun or blah, blah, blah. I'm thinking it's going to be better than I remember it being. Unfortunately, it was far worse than I remember it being. Like, I was disappointed all over again, where I was like, oh no, I was actually not mean enough to it
back in the day.
Yeah, I didn't really even understand exactly how bad it was.
Well, so let's transition. Welcome to Reasonable Beef, everyone.
Boy.
My name is Tim E. Kish. I'm
not sure if this one's going to be very reasonable.
It's it's reasonable.
Even just from your voice just then, you sounded like you were starting a really like somber court.
Look, this is a dirge.
Yeah.
This is us. This is the funeral. This is the death of childlike glee and wonder. No, I thank Avier Red every day. I'm so glad that they could not understand what he truly wanted for this film through his clinking rings and necklaces. And they're just like, what's Sandman? Clink, 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 clink. Venom 2? Is that true? Clink, 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 clink. Oh, and Green Goblin. Okay, that sounds like a...
Yeah.
This is producers out of control. And this is before Marvel really got back into the game. And there's a good year period between 2007 2008 that's extremely hopeless for the superhero genre. And then Iron Man brought everything back.
Yeah.
But this is the crash.
And the Dark Knight,
Yes, and the Dark Knight. But I would say more so Iron Man reinventing what the modern day superhero movie is.
Agreed.
Because I think that the Nolan Batman movies, while I enjoy them, are the older style of they're still in the attitude of the Tim Burton Batman.
I mean, if we're going to have a discussion about that, it's a completely different thing.
I agree.
I think that the Dark Knight, especially not the trilogy, I think the Dark Knight sits outside of the superhero genre so much so that it doesn't even. It's its own thing.
The Dark
too
Knight
good to be referred that way.
Oh, it's Dom and Jack Howard are with me today, guys.
Yeah, right.
Anyway,
The Dark Knight, I think, changed a general temperament of those big movies and the big action movies.
Yeah.
But Iron Man changed very specifically the superhero thing now.
I agree.
Like that was so. The Dark Knight maybe even you could say had a wider reach. Had a
The Dark Knight was so good.
It is so good. You're gonna do Are you doing the pie line?
It's a reference. Yeah,
Gotcha.
The pie line. The insanest part about that scene, and insanest isn't a word. I just invented it because that's how insane this scene is.
So insane.
Is when the bus drives by and then he's gone. What the fuck was that?
Why? And you do gotta wonder, right? There's so many times in this movie where...
And James Franco can't wink.
No, he can't.
Or
You're right.
Operate his eyes in any real meaningful capacity.
He just blinks like he's fucking being held hostage. But how many times on the set of that, with how many people were around, let alone Sam Raimi, who's not a stupid person.
No.
Yeah, he's a smart dude.
Yeah.
Did no one, we're not talking about something that gets cut in a way that then you maybe wouldn't have seen it till it was all together like that. We're talking about a static fucking medium shot on someone, and when they said something with a particular tone or just the line itself was bad, how did no one go, we maybe need to do something about that?
Right.
Like, that can't be that.
I think it's because, again, this is an era before we give control back to the creatives and back to people who give a shit about the characters. I feel like this is very much a production company not giving a fuck about their characters. This is Sony not particularly caring and just kind of wanting this to happen. I mean, because this screams of a big project with a bunch of moving parts that they just managed to eke out a movie.
But I will say, though, that, I was just recently, I saw Jon Favreau talk about this, and he said something interesting, which I believe, which is that no one doesn't care. Like, at least he said his perspective was that he's never been talking with these studio people, and they've never been like, you know what, I just don't care if it's bad.
Right.
But it's meddling. It's wanting too much. It's forcing Sam Raimi to do Venom.
It's not a lack of caring. It's a lack of reverence, I think, of what's important, because that's a lot of what's missed in this movie is that a lot of what makes these characters good or significant is removed. Venom at the end is completely antithetical to what Venom should be. Like, he should be the Spectre. He should always be on, like, your shadow. You should always be looking around the corner.
Yeah.
I think you're onto something as well, because I think that you can show individual moments from this movie and they sort of on their own, like, the sequences can work, like the action scene where Gobby picks up Peter from the motorcycle. That sequence is great. The Sandman sort of building himself, like, over time has become less impressive, but like still pretty cool. I think also the fight in Harry's apartment when Peter comes to get him is pretty brutal at times.
Yeah.
I also think as well that the scene where Peter rips off the symbiote and it attaches itself to Eddie Brock is a pretty wonderfully put together sequence.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
I think that just what you've hit you've hit the nail on the head, which is that it doesn't seem to really understand or care about the relationships between the characters or the characters individually, because this movie, this whole franchise of Spider-Man, this Raimi version of it, it lives and dies on the relationship between Peter and the people around him, and the most important relationship. I mean, the opening line of Spider-Man 1 is that this story, like any story worth telling, is all about the girl. And in Spider-Man 3, I don't root. Not only do I not root for Mary Jane and Peter Parker, I don't want them to be together, because they are the worst example of well, actually, they're the best example of an unhealthy couple.
Yeah.
They don't talk to each other honestly. They don't understand each other. It is the most frustrating and uncomfortable thing to watch.
Oh, I agree. Mary Jane acts completely irrationally this whole
does he.
movie.
Dude, did you ever and I realized this when I watched it more recently, it is so messed up that he kisses Gwen Stacy because he knows her.
Mad.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Before, it's such a weird plot point.
I remember watching it like as a kid or whatever, and you're just like, oh, but he's Spider-Man. Like, he's Spider-Man, and he did a thing as Spider-Man to like put on a show. But it's like, no. But when you know that person,
right,
and you go to school with that person, and you took this weird fucking chance to make out with her, that's fucking creepy and weird, man.
Agree.
That's not Peter Parker. That's
agree.
Fucking strange.
On the opposite side of that, Mary Jane has already introduced her problem of being jealous of Peter as Spider-Man. That, if you remember, that's her main impetus, she at her core is jealous that he's getting more attention as Spider-Man, and she's not doing so great as an actress. That is so. I hate that person. What a not supportive, awful psychopath to hate your partner for doing this thing. Well, you've already told him, like, yeah, I get that you're Spider-Man, I'm cool with that, and then she clearly is not cool with that.
Well, here's the thing:
it doesn't work as like a character moment.
To me, that there could have been something in the idea of, like, and this is something I'm kind of trying to circle in on with Hero, and I mean, I feel weird about like talking about a thing I want to do, but like the idea of the girlfriend character in relation to the guy who's going out and saving people. There is something interesting in asking the question of, is she allowed to be upset at him when he's going out and saving people's lives and stuff?
Right.
When he comes back and he is maybe unsympathetic to what's going on with her, shouldn't she be allowed to be like, I don't care about you in Spider. Like, this is not that. This isn't about you. This is about me. And it's like, but the problem is the movie handles that like a fucking scalding potato out of the oven. It's like, oh, I don't, and it just never really like picks a lane and doesn't pick a point of what it's making. And here's I realized watching it recently, because I was also had just with kind of a newer, older brain had watched
more of a disconnect from it.
Yeah, had watched the first couple
newer,
as well.
older?
A newer, older brain.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Anyway, moving on.
This movie's changes much about how I speak when it comes to that. This third movie, it takes place in a universe completely different from the first two.
Yeah.
Like literally everything about it.
Sure,
From
totally.
how
It's
everybody
remarkably
talks to each other, from the way that it looks, from like the fucking kind of action things that happen in it and the kind of bad guys.
We should have known that we were in trouble when the opening lines of the movie are, "It's me, your friendly neighborhood." You know.
Oh God!
We should have known that we were in trouble straight a fucking way.
Yeah. And somebody brings up a good point. I forget who said this, but a big issue with this movie at the very base, like just going all the way back to the design of Peter's black suit. And I kind of dug it when I was younger. Like when I first saw it, I was like, yeah, it's just Spider-Man's suit, but it's black. Yeah. But really looking at the comic book suit, they did it a huge disservice when they brought it to the movie. Because when you really think about the black suit, it's very alien. Peter's eyes kind of like open and close. He's not black. He's the color of darkness. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Where he's now, and it's all he is like the color of darkness, white eyes, big white chest, and that's it. And it's so minimalist and cool. And what they really did with it in the movie is kind of lame. I wish it looked a bit more alien. I feel like that would have been really
I think
interesting.
that also a lot of, and I have a lot of problems with it, but I also think as well, what really bothers me about the introduction of Venom is that they gave themselves a perfect way to get that suit.
Yep.
They introduced in Spider-Man 2 an astronaut.
Yep.
And
actively, he's about to go to space too.
Yep.
And then in this one, he's just not there. And also the idea as well that like one of the last shots of Spider-Man 2 was him looking angry and distressed about the fact that Mary Jane wasn't there. Surely he should have had something to do with like that was already like you'd set up that emotion. Not only had you set it up for like plot and like just logistics of how you would introduce an alien being into Earth, but also you've got motivation there emotionally.
Like imagine the insanity of doing the legwork to set up something so fanciful, like an alien comes to Earth, and then be like, "No, it fell from the sky," and then it hits his moped.
There is several.
Bonkers.
This movie, it's unforgivable. I literally I cannot look past it, especially when you go from the first one to the second one. What a fucking mistake all around.
Yeah.
It really, time and time again, it lets you down over and over.
Wow.
On a nearly scenely basis.
Yeah.
It lets you down. Whether it's whether it's a complete mishandling of a character you already fucking love. You didn't need, we already liked the guy. What are you doing? You're making us hate him.
Go, Peter,
everybody.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that's
every time the symbiote landing. Because that's why it shows up. That is why the black suit shows up in this movie, because.
Right.
That is literally Sam Raimi had written the first 12 pages and Avi Arad gets on the phone and Sam's like, Avi, can you please take off your rings and your medals because I can't hear what you're saying
against the receiver.
And then once he took those off, he said Venom and hung up.
Yeah.
And Sam was like, fine, and then wrote Meteor hits the park.
Absolutely. Because in a good movie, it would be Peter's negative emotions start first and then begat the black suit.
Yeah.
Where the black suit acts as an extension of negativity, and he realizes the duality of his person, where he could go and where he is going. But
Yeah.
no, he just gets the suit and it makes him bad.
Yes. And what it's the question, like, what happens when the responsibility part becomes less of an issue? What happens when he starts getting happy and he's got it under control? What happens when he's a good Spider-Man and now he's getting cocky and blah blah blah? And like, of course the black suit's an extension of that, and of course he starts demanding the job and he starts beating people up and he gets fucking ruthless. Again, we never God. Time and time again, it disappoints you. It drops the ball on every element it introduces, let alone Sandman, who was the only fucking thing Sam Raimi liked about the movie. Like, he was the one he wanted in the movie for no reason.
Sure.
And he fucked that up too.
Well, but that could just be an economy of time thing where, I mean, clearly that's the thing he wanted to develop and he wanted to push a little bit more. I played through the video game because I'm a psychopath, and a story beat in the video game that's not in the movie is that Venom is holding Sandman's daughter,
right,
and that's why he's even there at the end, which I think is so incredibly, that's an important plot point, instead of it having at the end Sandman and also Venom and also Green Goblin.
But let alone, again, dude, honestly, and I feel that I love Sam Raimi and I love those Spider-Man movies. I love what he does and I love what he did with them. But I literally cannot look past things in this movie. I cannot look past, like, fucking the Sandman. Why change the history? Why make Sandman the one who accidentally shot Uncle Ben? Did he really not realize that took away everything?
Oh,
sure.
God.
But I'll tell you why. It's because they have no economy of their time and they need to figure out a way to make Peter against Sandman without doing any legwork, because they really don't. That's it. That's all they do to set up that why he would want to defeat Sandman.
Yeah, but it didn't need. The thing is, as well, they had a storyline that they were like. This is already not a good way of telling a story, but they had a storyline they were developing with him and Eddie Brock. They wanted them two to be personal, right? And then Sandman could have just been the person on the outside who was, like, in the way, and it actually would have made the black suit fucking worse if he didn't have any personal reason and Sandman was just getting in the way constantly and he went and killed him, or at least thought he killed him. That makes the black suit so much more frightening than it does that like he's got this anger to do with Uncle Ben and then he uses that. If he was just angry at him for no reason other than he had to keep stopping him, that's scarier.
Wow. Yeah,
I agree
100%. That's a great point.
I was going to say, I mean, you're talking about not doing legwork. Like, we can play this game where it's like, if Sandman was just a good guy, it's exactly what Jack is saying. You set up, okay, Raimi wants Sandman because he likes the way Sandman looks. Fine. We were just talking about this with Guardians, right? It's Ego the Living Planet. Sure. I like Ego. How do I make sure it works in my actual movie? I like Sandman. Okay, he's got a daughter, and okay, he's not such a bad dude, he's like a criminal, but we do sympathize with him. You've set that up so that then when Peter is unsympathetic, it's like,
the audience should be against Peter now.
That's the end of it. We didn't need the Uncle Ben thing.
Right.
We didn't.
Oh, it's such a bad decision. Such a bad decision.
Again, even, okay, with Harry, let's fucking go even further. Why did Harry just decide after, he saw MJ's show and he was like at home hanging out, fucking took a shower, and he's like, you know what? I'm gonna tonight I'll be the Green Goblin. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what the fuck was that? Why was he not? He should have just already been him. Like, we had no reason to believe in the beginning of that movie that he didn't already take the formula and he wasn't already strong.
Yeah, it's like isn't the last thing you see him do in the second one is him take that formula?
He's got it in his hand. He's looking at the fucking rows of the pumpkin bombs, which he doesn't use. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. He sees the mask, which he doesn't put on.
Even the stuff, right? Even the fucking stuff that I wouldn't bring up now because I've already dealt with it. Why the fuck did they redesign the Goblin?
Agreed, Jack. Agreed.
Why? Why?
Riddle me this.
Let me tell you something. There's these things. They're called toys, and when you make them.
But why wasn't he like fucking red or something? I don't know. Just do the same suit.
Why? For example, didn't they like change this again goes with what we said before in the Guardians thing about like changing things and interpret them differently for this. Why wasn't he the Hobgoblin?
Right.
Sure. Why not?
For example.
Why the fuck not? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, or the Green Goblin, because I guess because you have, Then you have the 3 bits where he's just fighting his past entirely. You have the Green Goblin, who is from his past. You have Sandman, who is apparently from his past. You have this black suit, which is a manifestation of like his negativity. I think that there's something interesting here. I don't think that there's no thematic element to be found here. I just think there's
no, but there is
pressure.
There isn't, because he didn't do it. They didn't do it.
Right. They never.
You know what I mean? Like,
no, I'll tell you why. Because they did not.
Exactly. I don't know, man. How much spookier?
Okay, so I hate this movie so much, right, that I actually just remembered that it took me so... It affected me so much that the last paper I ever wrote at university was about Spider-Man 3. Okay. And I researched it. I watched fan edits where they got rid of Venom. I watched fan edits where they got rid of Sandman. I watched fan edits where they all sorts of stuff that did improve it. Obviously, they had stuff to work with, but I've got 10,000 words in front of me about basically why Spider-Man 3 doesn't work.
We got 30 minutes left in this episode if you just want to start reading that.
Just read it. Just read it to
you. Dude, Sam, and here's I'm going to pull back because I do feel this feels... it's like when someone knocks over a cup of water and it gets all over your shit, gets on your pants, and if they look you in the eyes and go, good, you don't feel bad. You're like, well, fuck you then, and your dumbass hands that are clumsy. But if the person knocks over the water, it falls all over your pants, and they look at you and go, I'm sorry, you feel bad being mad at them, right?
Right.
It Raimi's sorry for this movie. So I do feel a little bit bad. He even recently, very recently, like last fucking week or something, he's got a quote it was just this past week, because it's while we're doing this episode, it was like 10 years, and they're putting out a new Blu-ray or whatever, and he talks about how he wanted to do Spider-Man 4 and it be the best of all of them because he was unhappy with Spider-Man 3. He was like, I know I kind of messed up. And but 4, we're going to do it, man. Vulture, we're going to get it. Mysterio's we're going to do what everyone thought we were doing with Bruce Campbell. He's Mysterio. Right. And like, they were going to do it. They were going to be there. And then Sony was like, listen. No, but what did he say? I think
it's because Iron Man.
No. You know what it was? He couldn't get it done in time. And he had a phone call.
I'm reading it now. He says, I wanted to make Spider-Man 4 to end on a very high note, the best Spider-Man of all of them, but I couldn't get the script together in time due to my own failings, and I said to Sony, I don't want to make a movie that is less than great, so I think we shouldn't make this picture. Go ahead with your reboot, which you've been planning anyway.
Yeah, I feel that. But at the same time, like, that feels hollow to me. It's like, telling you I was going to do another one and it was going to be the best one ever. It's I'm sure it was, Sam.
But I do think that he cares, and I do think that it was, they had a release date coming, and so he had a whatever day they said, listen, you need the script done by now.
There was a release date set for Spidey 4?
Yeah.
Wow.
There are interviews of Tobey Maguire talking about Spider-Man 4 like 3 days before they canceled it.
Wow. I did not know that.
I don't remember what movie he had done after the third one. I can't remember what it was, but yeah, he's talking about, I love coming back. I love doing Spider-Man, and we'll keep doing them as long as people like them.
I also remember as well, I remember watching the interviews of them talking about Spider-Man 3 and all of them being like, I don't know how they keep doing it, but these movies just keep getting better and better.
I know, they were all liars.
Fucking lying through your teeth.
Yeah.
Well, they're professional liars. They get paid to do that on camera for a living. So I often just like when an actor talks about how great their film is going to be, it's like, there's a contract signed here.
Of course, but it's also sad when someone thought it was going to work and it didn't. Right. It's sad when you see a bunch of people talk about it and love it and feel like they had something great on their hands, and then the reaction is bad.
Affleck with Batman and Superman, where he is like, this is fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. When you're in it, when you're close to it, and when it seems like this big special thing, and he cares about his performance, and he sees the dailies, and it looks fucking amazing. How do you not think, wow, we got something good on our hands here?
Yeah, I mean, you
that's the difference, though, between the, like, it's funny, because I feel like with Batman vs. Superman, you could make the argument that scene by scene, if you watched just a scene with no context, barring maybe him getting in the tub with Lois, fully dressed, when you're that close to it and you're just seeing the scene, you're like, this is kind of good. Like, you know what I mean?
I see what you mean.
It tricked me for a while. Like, I remember for maybe for about an hour of that movie, I was like, hang on, am I not hating this?
Sure.
Yeah.
So like I
I
can see the exact same thing happening if you're in it.
Yeah, so he's doing scene by scene. He's doing these fucking scenes with Alfred, and he's thinking, "Wow, we're in it, man. This is Batman. This is fucking sick." And then the movie comes together, and
also as well. But the thing is that can't and won't and doesn't apply to Spider-Man 3.
no, that's what I'm saying. Is like when they were shooting "How's the Pie" so good.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right in front of your face. Like,
Oh, absolutely. He's dancing in this jazz club. It's fucking hell.
I mean, as soon as they made the decision to like pull his hair down, like the fact that that's
what the fuck
the
is
fact
that
that you
about?
watch him do that, and also you know that that's them trying to tap into this emo phase that was happening in 2007.
but
like,
dude, was it? Because I remember watching that and being like, "That's already not cool."
Sure.
You guys are way off here.
it's like him looking into the screen and like into the camera and going, "I'm on MySpace." Like,
But at the same time, it's also like it's the most. It's like some dork who's sick of getting beat up in his life is like, "I'm gonna make a big change. I'm gonna be cool."
Yeah.
And he goes out and he does the least effort. Like he just muscles his hair.
He goes to
It's
H&M.
not
He
like
buys a bunch of black button-ups.
It's not like a great transformation. It's not like he's fundamentally like, "Oh, you're someone else now."
And that's the problem, is they play the black suit. And this is where Sam Raimi, he didn't have a reverence for the black suit or for Venom or any of this, because his angle on it, and it's maybe I'm seeing it for the first time now, his angle on the black suit was continuing that Peter's a dork. His angle was like, this is a dork who
thinks he's cool
thinks
now,
he's cool,
yeah.
and now he's going to dance down the street, and we're supposed to just be like, "Oh, you fucking nerd." Unfortunately, though, for us to care about anything that happens, we need to be scared of the black suit, and we need
Totally.
to understand when he wants it off of him. And
It also-
he hits MJ by accident.
Right.
Can we go there for a second?
Yeah, entirely by accident.
That
And I
wasn't a
think-
choice.
Yeah, that's a studio decision of like, we can't have Spider-Man actually hit his girlfriend, but it's like, but then way to destroy all of the point of that.
Well, firstly and lastly, why did he need to punch Mary Jane ever?
Yeah.
By accident or on purpose? Why the fuck was his descent not that just he gets in, even if he gets in the fight in the club after he becomes the Mask?
Yeah.
Why did he not just like then start beating the shit out of those dudes who were telling him to leave because he's being an asshole? He could have just destroyed those dudes.
Totally.
And Mary Jane just been like, "What are you doing?"
I also think there needs to be Peter's life is markedly better. I think we need to see him
Right.
be a cool guy, like a guy that's like, a real shark, like a real dude who's willing to get what he wants,
Yes.
and he's actually cool, and his life is actually better. But it is making his personal life hollow. It's making him as a person hollow, and you miss that.
They went the wrong direction with his hair.
Yeah, it should have gone to the left.
His hair should
have swooped to the left. You're absolutely right.
Instead of forward and over his eyes, he should have had his hair pushed straight back, slick. He should have been in fucking hot New York pea coats. He should have looked like
needs to be a Wall Street
He
guy.
should have looked like Peter Petrelli from the future.
Yeah,
When
good
he- Also as
reference
well,
for
like-
everyone in the.
If you don't get
it's-
that reference, you turn this shit off right now because I don't have nothing to say
but
to you.
him going shopping as well, like the black suit I know mostly is from the 90s animated series.
Right.
Like
Right.
why I mean I know it's maybe it's slightly goofy, but like I think I would have bought into, like, I mean, I thought what you said earlier, Tim, like about the idea of his eyes moving and things like that. I think that would have been a great way to show that this suit was different in this movie. And also like in the 90s cartoon, the suit changed to whatever he needed it to change to. And
Yeah,
like,
suits or costume or outfits. It's a Venom thing.
I was just
Yeah.
talking about this with Max though, and I kind of think that's one of the black suit things that I'm not on board for, because it
yeah,
does
like
sort of.
I don't love that. I don't love it, but like they completely like breeze
Yeah.
over anything that suit can do. Like also as well, because in this universe, he just has organic webs.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
so it didn't fucking change a thing. Like
Yeah.
it just made him angry and sort of attitudey and it just wasn't.
I see what you mean. My argument would be that the only reason Eddie Brock can do the clothes thing is because he's completely accepted that it's an alien, and it's like it's got to be with him at all times. It's like a part of himself.
I guess,
Whereas
yeah.
Peter rejects that, where he's like, I don't want this thing on me all the time, and ultimately that's the choice that it comes down to, where he doesn't quite know that this thing is an alien until until it's almost too
Dude,
late.
it literally is the Mask.
Yeah, I know it is.
Because
It's very
when
what
it's
really bothers me
when
as
it's
well,
on
do you know what
Stanley
really-
Ipkiss, it's good. What? Go ahead, no.
you know what's always bothered me since even when I saw it for the first time and I was like, I don't think it's that bad. I think it's pretty good. What's always bothered me is that the suit, the Venom covers his red suit, and then at the end he has another one.
Yeah. Who's tailoring these things?
Thank God I had the spare.
Yeah, like it was that always bothered me. I was like, well, no. That didn't just cover him when he was naked. That covered his red suit.
I mean, there's and they're gonna do it in Homecoming because we've already seen in the trailers. But like, you know, how much of a bone would you have been tending to if at the end of that he had to put on the fucking wrestler outfit to go and fight, and it was a true like
yes
back to basics
reset of like, oh, I got to remember who I am and why I started doing this.
Yes,
and he's
that's
back.
a great idea, which is exactly what Homecoming's going to be.
Yeah, they're gonna do that.
It's taken 10 years to get to it, but
somewhat
we're hopefully gonna
frustratingly,
get it now.
Somewhat frustratingly, did they earn that yet in Homecoming? Like, I hope that moment hits the way it should, where it seems like, okay, now Peter's, I guess because we've seen him in the other movies, right? Like, we've seen him doing his thing, where we need to see Peter have that, like, cocky fall down to get reset.
Well, yeah,
I
but
feel like that would work better for the second movie than...
I know what you're saying, but I think as well what there's I know what you, and I get your point completely, Tim, but I think that everybody already knows who Spider-Man is,
right?
Like, and I think that what they're trying to do this time is go, okay, what can we do that's different, and having him have the final act in his back to basics, you know, wrestling costume is like something that we haven't seen.
You're right. It's also symbolic in a way. It's not necessarily this Peter Parker. It's all of them. Like, hey, we're restarting it for real this time. I know we saw Amazing Spider-Man. We're not going to do that same origin, but we're going to do a new version of an origin.
Right.
But it's not. It's not rewriting who he is as a person. It's
but even just to look at it like scientifically, you know, or mathematically, however you want to fucking phrase it, where like in the movie they are putting a lot of importance on that new suit. And so it's like they're just setting their own rules already. They're being like, okay, this suit...
Talking Spider-Man 3 or Homecoming.
Okay. They're saying the Iron Man suit is important to him. The Iron Man Spider-Man suit is like this thing that he's defining himself on. We see it in the trailer. So that's like, they're already being like, it'll matter when he puts on the other one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, just because in the movie itself, he's already, you know...
And it's sort of establishing himself as his own hero, because the suit is him and his relationship with Tony Stark and this whole new like special thing that he has. And then he loses that, and now he's like, who am I as a hero when I'm not related to Tony Stark?
And he's gonna have to part ways with that. I mean, I'm almost positive that's how this is gonna end.
Yeah.
But we're getting off.
No, I think it's still relatively on topic, because I think that Spider-Man 3 is important as just an idea of what not to do.
Because it's a bad sequel. It's a bad sequel.
It's a poor sequel, and it's a misunderstanding of what people are looking for in a superhero movie and what a superhero movie should be. Superhero movie should be a reflective story about personal growth. It should always be about like the person learning and the person moving forward and dealing with something about themselves. Like something about themselves should be reflected in the villain. And I didn't really feel that way with Sandman in this, or Green Goblin, or even Venom for that matter, once we finally got at the end.
Yeah, no.
As the short end of the stick as Topher Grace got, the way he's playing Venom is really... I don't really care.
I like Topher Grace in this movie. Like,
yeah, me too.
I think that Topher Grace is given a good performance, and I think it's such a shame that Topher, you know, because I mean I'm a big fan of that '70s show, and to see him move to movies and then just get completely fucking derailed because he was in the shit Spider-Man movie, and now he's barely in many movies, and when he is, he's always the sort of like very small role.
Right.
I think it's just such a shame that his career almost was derailed by it.
Yeah, absolutely. He got totally stiffed. He does put in a great performance. I mean, he does the Topher Grace thing. They hired him to do him, and he did it.
But it's that question of like, you know, who says no to it? You know, you can't even blame him. Yeah, it's just like it's just a bummer.
But that's why it's a shame. Is because
this isn't to do with this movie specifically. I think it's to do with this Raimi series in general. I think it goes to show how much poor planning there was involved. That like in Spider-Man 1, there are 2 references to like there's a reference to Eddie Brock, like there's a reference where he says Eddie's been on it for weeks, we can't get a glimpse of him, and then there's also a reference to Dr. Connors. He says I was late again and Dr. Connors fired me, and it's like
he's straight up in it. Kirk Connors is in these movies.
Well, yeah, that's what we were saying though, and then Eddie shows up as well. But these are
all
not
of them. Kirk
No,
Connors.
he's not in the first one.
No, Kirk Connors is only in the second and
Oh,
third.
okay. All right. I see. Okay. I'm sorry. Please continue.
So like when those things happened, I was like, oh, like you didn't obviously know what you were going to do, but also you didn't, and it was like your way of like elbowing the audience and being like, look, see, we're referencing outside of this world, like this
Right.
world is bigger than and then they just went, oh, we'll hope that no one noticed that, and we'll just do this now, and it just sort of goes to show that like this poor planning that went into that stuff.
Well, let me counter. Iron Man has a lot of the same issues. I mean, we talk about at the end where, I'm sorry, at the end of the Hulk, where Tony Stark shows up and says we're putting together a team. Tony
right.
Stark would not be doing that because he's not in the Avengers. They say specifically, like, we don't want you for the Avengers because you're too crazy.
You know
Why
that-
would he be around?
They
recruiting
retconned
people?
that as well. Do you remember it was called like the informant or the asset or so. I don't remember what it was one of the
Right.
Marvel shorts where basically it's a conversation with Coulson and the guy who ends up being a Hydra person for S.H.I.E.L.D. And they're talking about it and they're talking about like, who do we send to Ross so that Ross will say no?
Right.
And they just say, well, Tony will.
But to the larger point, the fact that they had to retcon
Yeah,
it points
exactly.
that there wasn't enough planning. And
Yeah, no, I'm with
I
you,
think
yeah.
to your point, Jack, I think that that's the most important thing about these Raimi movies is that they taught us that lesson. They taught us the lesson
Yes.
that we need to meticulously have an idea of where these characters are going to be in 10 years.
Well, but you didn't then.
Right, you didn't. But that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. It's an important lesson that we learned from the Raimi movies, where it's like those movies needed to happen the way they did for us to have Marvel the way it is now. And I truly believe that. I think that the failure of Spider-Man 3 shaped Marvel for their whole thing. I think that they understood.
But I also, I guess I agree with you. I understand what you're saying, but I do think that it's just a different animal. They knew what they were going into when they were starting the MCU, but when they started, it's hard to say it's a failing because it wasn't what they were doing. They weren't up to that. You know what I
Right.
mean? That was still in the era 2002 to 2004. It was still like, you just make a sequel to the movie. Like, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
If it does well, make another one.
And that's entirely my point, where there was no reason for them to even think about it. And then when the whole thing collapsed under its own weight with Spider-Man 3, that was a very valuable lesson. You know, that's really what this conversation should be about Spider-Man 3. It's like, we obviously all hate Spider-Man 3, but the fallout of Spider-Man 3 is so significant because it's not a commercial failure. I don't even think it was a critical failure at the time. I think it still holds like a 60 or
got like a
70%
60-something,
on
yeah.
Rotten Tomatoes.
It's like a 63 or something.
So for a movie to be so reviled by so much of the fan base for like what it got wrong, but at the time it just kind of landed not with like a big heavy thud, but sort of with just a soft landing, that's more damning than if it was actually terrible at the time.
You know, it was the biggest
Yeah, but
weekend
I think
opening
that's,
ever. That
right.
weekend.
So I think that's a testament to like how loved this franchise was. Like
Right.
so, like at the time, because Spider-Man 1 happened and people were like, "Oh shit, it was good, like nice."
Yeah.
And then Spider-Man 2 happened and people were like, "Oh my god, we should take this seriously now." Like,
Yeah.
this is because last year when I was with you guys in Los Angeles and we went to go see that in the cinema, we
Yeah.
all like were shocked to be like, "Oh shit!" Like, I can't believe I'm about to say this, but they don't make movies like this anymore. Like,
Yeah.
this is a superhero movie, but really it's a character drama and Spider-Man's in it. And people like saw that and were like, "Oh, okay, now these movies mean business. They're not just big silly movies. They're films and they're like about stuff.
And sort of
they
as-
care about their characters." And then 3 comes along and people were like, "Okay,
it went
I
backwards.
guess that wasn't as good."
Exactly.
Spider-Man 3 was like from 1997. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they kind of were. It is regressive, and sort of laterally to your point of Spider-Man 2 sort of exists on the same arc as The Dark Knight, where it's a character drama. It's a film that happens to star these superheroes.
These icons, yeah.
There's more superhero-y shit in Spider-Man 2, obviously, because he has
he's got
superpowers.
powers.
But I think that's a very similar thing. And something I wanted to touch on, I don't think I touched on in our Guardians episode, the mix of practical and CG is what makes Spider-Man 2 still work. And I bring this up all the time, where sometimes the octopus arms are fake, sometimes they're puppets.
Right.
Yeah.
And a good mix between the two makes it seem real. With Guardians, I think there was something similar to that. Like a lot of those sets, they had shit built practical, touched
And
with
then
CGI.
CGI beyond that, yeah.
Yes, it never felt like they were 100% like on a green screen screen world where nothing was real. It felt like there was something there, and then it was supplemented with CGI.
Sure.
Probably upwards of like 80% of the stuff is CGI, but still having that like tactile, physical like puppet or thing just really gives weight to the world.
But it's funny because there's even CGI in the first Spider-Man that I think is stronger than stuff in the second one.
I agree. I think the swinging looks worse in the second one.
Yeah, there's some weird, and maybe it was a physics thing.
The final swing in Spider-Man 2 looks with the helicopters and shit.
Yeah,
like
it's
looks
weird.
a lot worse than it does at the end of Spider-Man 1.
Right, but let's talk about Spider-Man 1's roof scene where Mary Jane is wearing like the Oriental dress. I don't know if that's a quite PC term. Pardon me if that's not what that thing is. But he's like, I'm your Spider-Man. And then he like hovers off the building and like gets launched into the sky by his web. Do you know what I'm talking about?
You're thinking of the third one. You're thinking of when
where
he jumps
runs
off
out the window.
It's in the beginning of the third one.
Yeah, that's so... And like he like tweens away from the window.
Yeah. Where there's no reason that had to be CG. It like literally there's no reason.
He gets like zipped out the window. It looks outrageous.
It looks so bad.
Yeah, it's so awful. Yeah.
But
I know
there's a lot of that in the third one.
Dude, in the first one, because you know what I think it was, and you hear them talk in the interviews in the first one about that being, you know, what was before that? What did we have? We had X-Men. I'm trying to think of like
Blade.
we had Blade.
Yeah, the Matrix really. Like the Matrix was the biggest influence over Spider-Man.
I would say.
Yeah, but it's like even what they do though in the Matrix was still, I don't know. They weren't leaping as much as Spidey. They weren't flipping the same way. It wasn't the same sort of like. They didn't need to do the same shit.
There is stuff though. There is like in the first Spider-Man in particular. You know, the bit where he jumps from roof to roof and the bit where he dodges all the goblins like razors.
Yeah.
That stuff is like lifted specific, like shot for shot, specifically from the Matrix.
Agreed. But what I was getting was I think that they were so. It's that thing of like they were nervous and they were like, you know, how do you pull off the dude like the weight of someone swinging, letting go, and landing with the force that should turn a human body into an accordion.
Right.
And how do you make it look like he lands and it works? Like when he launches himself from the flagpoles onto the Queensboro Bridge and he's swinging through the rafters and shit, and then it's right before it's the Spider-Man, this is why only fools are heroes. When he fucking lands on that one thing, it looks so good.
Sure. Yeah, I agree. They were just maybe giving it a little bit
And
extra
maybe
attention.
it's the film
cut to
texture or
Spider-Man
something,
3,
like-
Spider-Man 3, where he's not in the costume,
God.
and he's on the building that falls down. And then we do, for whatever reason, in 2007, Sony thought they were so confident with their CG that they can do a close-up on CG Spider-Man falling from this building, and it looks like a fucking PlayStation.
It does. It
video
looks like
game.
a PlayStation cutscene.
It
You
looks,
mean the bit when like he's pulled the wall off and he's like on the wall?
That's exactly it. The first time that the new Goblin encounters him and like hits him with the bomb, it's...
Fuck.
Yeah, they do it again as well. Like
too confident.
So it's the bit when he's like you're talking about the bit when he's on the bit of wall and he's like holding onto it, and then the Goblin comes through and smashes it.
Yeah, and we do
'Cause they do it
full-
again in the final sequence when Spider-Man and Venom are falling.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they're like firing like web balls at each other and shit like that, and that's an entirely CGI sequence, and you get glimpses of their faces. Well, Peter's face, and it just doesn't look good at all.
It's just it's too confident. It's frankly what it is. It's we'll just CGI this and it'll be fine. And I don't know. We talk about this a lot of allocation of funds of like, hey, where are we going to put this CG money, and like what
Right.
are we going to make look good and what are we not going to make look good, and that in itself is like a huge decision for the whole thing because it can make it break it.
Well, it's funny too with something like Spider-Man 3 though, where there's so much of it and it all looks so glossy and not so good.
Yeah.
That I'm like, well, where did it go? And maybe there's just too
Also-
much.
That's true. It's the
Oh,
most
God,
expensive movie to
sorry.
make. I'm sorry, Jack.
I'm just remembering things now, like because you made me think about that sequence again, and that sequence ends with them giving James Franco amnesia because they needed to do that for a bit.
Yes.
Like that is so bizarre.
This movie disappoints you every chance it can.
Oh yeah. Oh, and this was also the most expensive movie ever made at the time. Correct? 250 million. It was the most expensive film, not adjusted for inflation, obviously.
Yes.
But yeah,
I know it
I-
opened to the 300 something.
I recall thinking that at 15 years old, seeing this movie and going, what did they do with the money? Like, really?
Well, it's just that there was too much of it. It was too spread. There was maybe just too much to do in the
Yeah,
movie.
that
There's
could
too
be it.
much CGI.
I think so. I just googled most expensive movies. The most expensive movie ever made is Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides.
What?
Same year, actually.
No,
Yeah,
Stranger Tides is the newer one with the mermaids.
Okay.
Yeah, so on Stranger Tides,
Weird.
which cost $378 million, but it's about to be overtaken by the Avengers.
Yeah.
With a $1 billion budget.
Collectively. I thought it was
Yeah.
collectively between the two films.
But even still, 500 million or however that's divided up. Like,
Yeah. But but in the same year, in 2007, Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End cost $300 million, whereas Spider-Man 3 cost $258 million.
Wow.
So it was only the most expensive movie for a short amount of time.
Yeah. I recall that was the that was also a big summer battle that year, wasn't it? Between
the same weekend.
Yeah, the same weekend between the worst Pirates movie and the worst Spider-Man movie. Probably by far.
And
for
also, both of their trailers were fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Like, I remember seeing those trailers and being like, I cannot wait for this. This is going to be life-changing.
I don't remember.
And in a way, it was.
the same way that getting hit by a bus can be life-changing or being in a plane crash. Oh gosh. All right. Do you guys want to talk about how are we feeling? Is everyone okay? It's been 10 years. Have we managed to recover?
no. I haven't.
Because the thing is, they haven't really, like, I mean, I had a minor, history repeating itself a little bit with every time I saw a Spider-Man movie since then, I've tried to convince myself that it's the best one.
Yeah.
I've Amazing
Right.
Spider-Man came out and I was like, oh my God, it was everything I needed it to be. And then I saw it more and I was like, no, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is bad.
Right.
And then Amazing Spider-Man 2, I had the same
Yeah.
thing. I was like, oh my God, it's like so much fun. Spider-Man's doing all the stuff I want him to do. And then the more I watched it, I was like, no, this is wrong. And why is this here?
It's moving on from a bad breakup.
Ever
It's-
since Spider-Man 3, I've not been happy with the stuff they've come out with, and I've been trying to convince myself I am for 10 years.
There hasn't been a better one since the second one.
Yeah.
No, correct.
I would think so because the amazing movies have their flaws, and unfortunately, they are pretty major.
They do some shit incredibly well. There's some
They
stuff
do
in it
some
that's
really
like
amazing stuff in
that's
there,
like
yeah.
better than any other Spider-Man stuff
Yeah,
we've had. But like
yeah.
as a
Like,
movie,
one of my
as a-
favorite
high school
Spider-Man
fight scene.
Yeah, one of my favorite Spider-Man scenes ever is the carjacker scene in their first Amazing Spider-Man movie. I
interesting.
fucking love that whole sequence.
Yeah, it's a good sequence. I was gonna say the locker room fight where he's fighting the lizard in the high school, and there's the whole bit with him where there's like someone listening to music or something, not noticing them doing
Stan
the
Lee.
fight.
Yeah, Stan Lee, man.
I absolutely loved that. Like, and
Yeah.
just the fight choreography of that. I'm like, this is a Spider-Man fight.
Yeah,
this is
I
the way
also
it's
love
done.
the way that they handled Gwen Stacy's death. That's fucking
Yeah.
elegant as all shit. Like, there's
Agreed.
references in there. It's tense. It's emotional. It's really, really good.
We've
But just
talked about-
overall, they just haven't done a good
the
good
fact
movie.
that the Amazing Spider-Man 2, I mean, I had such a, even when when I started watching it, I was like, oh my God, this is a breakup movie. This is like, this opens with them splitting up, and then this whole movie's going to be about that. And I was like, fuck, that's awesome. But fuck, I mean, come on.
Yeah, it didn't. And then you have cartoon Electro, but Spider-Man's my best friend.
And there's a similar thing with Electro. They want Electro for a bit, and then they lock him down when they don't want him. It's the same thing in Spider-Man 3 where they're like, okay, we want James Franco, now we don't, so
Yeah.
we're going to give him amnesia.
Yeah.
It's the exact same
You're right.
bullshit, lazy storyline writing.
Fuck, I hope Homecoming really knocks our butts off.
Yeah,
Yeah, because
here's
the thing
hoping.
is, like, everyone's expecting it to be great because he was so good in Civil War,
Yeah.
and he was so much fun to watch, and it was such a great, different Peter Parker that. I mean, obviously, everyone's looking at the trailers and being like, "Oh my God, thanks for showing me everything." But the thing is, at the same time, I don't think we're seeing the important stuff. I think they're showing us all the big sort of stuff, all the set pieces they have, but we don't really know who Vulture is. I haven't seen Donald
I
Glover,
agree.
and he's in the movie. I haven't seen Aunt May. I haven't seen him talk to Zendaya, who is absolutely a big part in that movie.
Absolutely.
Like, there's so much of the intimate stuff that they are leaving out, which I'm so happy about. Like, I fucking knew that the plot was going to be, he gets the suit taken off him, and then he has to fight Vulture in his old suit. I knew that was going to happen, so it wasn't a surprise to me. I'm excited to see all the intimate stuff that they are
Agreed. Yeah.
Well,
they are leaving out of the trailers.
If you're watching a superhero movie for the plot, you're fucking up. Like, obviously, it should be good, but you're there for the characters. You're there for the action. You're there for the spectacle and the event. You're there because you love Peter Parker. You want to see him do cool Peter Parker things.
Yeah, I do also think, though, these movies could use with, Winter Soldier even, like, that had a good plot. Like, I think the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5...
Because all it really is a mask for let's get the superheroes to fight each other, and then the good guy's going to win. Maybe not completely. Maybe he won't get away scot-free,
sure.
but the good guy is going to win. And there's something so simple and so beautiful about that.
Well,
because that's superhero movies.
But I think the journey should also be,
I'm not saying
twisty and turny.
I'm not saying the journey is
and
not important and you're not going to get twists. But what I'm saying is, to Jack's point, I want to see the intimacy.
Oh, yeah,
that's what you're going to these movies for. Not to figure, is he going to beat the Vulture? Yes, he's going to beat the Vulture. I can guarantee he's going to beat the Vulture. You're seeing it because what is this new Mary Jane going to be like? Who the fuck is?
Well, and again, I'm not trying I'm not trying to just argue. So many people, they're not though. They're people who are going to see the Vulture fight, and they're going to see Iron Man be in it. You know what I mean?
At the same time, actually, to those people who have complained that they've seen too much, you haven't really seen that much of the Vulture, though. You still haven't seen.
Yeah, agreed.
I haven't seen him do anything particularly cool. I've seen him do a landing, and I've seen him pick up Peter Parker in a park or something. I've seen him
like Coney Island.
Yeah. I haven't seen that much. I haven't seen him flying or anything like that. I've only seen him landing. So I'm excited to see all the other stuff in between that they're clearly leaving out.
Agreed.
I'm going to call this now. Peter is going to initially think that he's a bat, but no, he's a vulture. And it's going to be because Michael Keaton was the...
All right, sure. Funny. That's a funny idea.
Excuse me. Good jokes.
All right,
guys.
so-
We're hitting about that mark. Do we want to do final thoughts about Spider-Man?
Three-headed critic.
No, final thoughts. Quick.
Final
Jack,
thoughts.
final thoughts.
Go ahead,
One
Jack.
sentence.
No, I want Dom to start this. I think Dom's got the most sort of like white hot rage about it, so I want to have more of that.
Yeah, I mean, dude, it's a letdown. It really is a letdown, and it's heartbreaking. And it's they had a platform to dig deep, man. They had a lot of threads, no pun intended, set up at the end of that movie. Even Mary Jane, we end the movie not thinking it's happily ever after in the second one. You see MJ look off and be like, fuck, what am I doing?
Spider-Man 2 ends like The Fucking Graduate.
Yeah.
Yeah, like what have we done? What am I signing up for? And then we don't see that shit at all. That movie, the Spider-Man 3 is not an extension of the two movies that came before it. It's a fucking swerve off the road, off a bridge. He breaks his hands. He can't do surgery anymore, and then he goes to fucking Tibet and becomes Doctor Strange.
This is not...
They messed up. Okay. It's a mess up.
Yeah.
They really messed up.
All right, Jack.
Yeah, my final thoughts are that there is so much opportunity in this to like do something interesting with it, and like I gave the example earlier that like Sandman not being Uncle Ben's killer actually makes a black suit scarier.
Yeah,
like there's so many opportunities like that in this movie that are so clear to me that it's frustrating to see. That's the reason why. It's because you love it so much and you can see the potential for things to be so good that because it's not, it's even more heartbreaking because you're like, it's right there.
I agree.
And it just everyone puts it down to a simple reason that like, oh, there's too many villains in Spider-Man 3 and therefore 3 villains doesn't work. That's not true. There is so much like at its core there is shit wrong with this movie, and no amount of editing or fan edits or theorizing is going to make it any better. But holy fucking shit, does it still hurt 10 years on to the point where I'm still getting fiery about it, and I could continue talking about it forever just because it's like I think it was ultimately the prequels for me, because I wasn't conscious enough for that to mean anything to me.
Oh no, me neither. I liked the Star Wars prequels when I was fucking 8 or however old we were, 7. You know what I mean?
But
like
this I was led in by marketing, and I was fully fucking disappointed by it.
Agreed.
Yeah, so my final thoughts are fuck this movie.
Yeah, man,
Oh, you stole mine. Yeah, so I agree with Jack. 10 years on, it's kind of remarkable how much this still kind of hurts, and it's kind of subsided, but I really look back on it, and I value Spider-Man 3 for it kind of turning me into a curmudgeon. Like, I think every kid needs to go to a Star Wars convention and get told to fuck off by Han Solo. You know what I mean? Like, your hero has to say, I don't care about you. You suck. You're nothing. In order for you to like really crush the child and build the man. And that's what happened here.
Gotcha.
Seriously, like a part of me was like, hey, here's a child. I'm going to kill you. And that's what he did. They killed me as a boy. And now the man is born.
Kill the boy.
And now I complain about superhero movies. And I do that every week. So thanks, Spider-Man 3.
I wish that I really, really wish Raimi had gotten 4. I wish he got I wish that he, even if it was a marginal improvement,
right,
it would have,
To finalize my point, we say armchair a lot on this podcast.
Yeah.
We talk about how important it is to, you weren't involved in the process. You're looking at it from the distance. Obviously, it looks different.
Totally, yeah.
But to Jack's point, I feel like there's a lot of the stuff that you could see that it is not going to work out just from the very basics,
Yeah,
planning phase.
I absolutely I'm of the opinion that it's so much easier to criticize than it is to actually create.
Of course.
But when something's so bad, like when something's like Spider-Man 3 or Suicide Squad levels of bad, then I don't mind really delving in and being like, you fucked up, because then...
I'm sorry.
There's no rules. Like, I'm just like, if you fucked up that badly, then I don't care how much effort you think you put into this because you fucked it.
And I'm not even going to pretend like this is all purely critical or this is all like purely artistic. A lot of it's personal. I definitely think that it's personal because it's. I gave a shit about the characters in Suicide Squad and Spider-Man.
You were let
fuck them
down.
up,
Yeah.
It hurts me. It hurts me personally. So of course some of that rage is going to come out. But
yeah,
anyway.
that's that. You make a good point actually, because like Suicide Squad, I wouldn't have cared so much about if the Joker wasn't involved. Like. Right. It's people. It's things like Spider-Man and the Joker where they have such a legacy and they mean so much to people. For some reason we put so much into them,
right?
That when they get fucked up, like that is like it's like coming after a family member almost. It's not. It's no, it's not that bad.
It's tragic. I have sympathy for Sam Raimi because it's not like he didn't give a shit necessarily. He was put in a weird spot, and then I just think maybe he was like tired, and I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean it's the third one, man. Like you make something as well as good and as different and as like surprising as Spider-Man 2. Where the fuck do you go from there? And also, it's so successful that then also the studio are like really like going, okay, this is what we need to do in order to make this successful, to make this a bigger thing, and to make to sell toys, like you were saying earlier as well. Like there's so many elements involved that I don't even blame Sam Raimi.
Sure,
I don't think anyone really does.
Made 3 of these things in 4 years. I mean, that's a crazy.
No,
as soon as one ended, he moved right on to the next one.
Yeah, it was like 2000. Yeah, the first one came out in 2002.
Yeah,
2002,
and then this one came out in 2006.
2007.
Oh, 2007, right. I'm wrong. That's my I'm wrong noise. All right. We'll end this on a 3-headed critic and we'll bounce.
Oh, God. 3-headed critic.
Jack, why don't you start it off? And I'll go to me and then Dom, then back to you.
Okay, here we go. Okay, I've got it. RV.
A-Rad.
Really?
Needs.
Less.
Jewelry.
Full stop.
All right, good. I wish I had like jewels near me so I could just like clink, and that would have been my answers. Just like clinking.
A-Rad. Fuck.
All right, guys.
Really needs less jewelry.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Jack Howard, for being with us for these last 2 episodes.
Thank you very much for having me. What a fucking pleasure.
Thank you. And thank you, Abby A-Rad, for
teaching us to never trust.
Thanks, guys. Have a wonderful evening.
Bye-bye.
Oh, wait, don't go yet.
What?
If you really, not you can go, but everyone out there listening, if you really like this, please go to www.patreon.com/reasonablebeef and give to the Patreon. Give what you can. You get access to bonus beef. It's a monthly episode where we answer your viewer mails, read comments, and just, generally
Yeah.
shoot the proverbial shit.
That is always gonna make me laugh. That
What?
whole thing at the end.
Thank you.
Just to end this, right? I'm just looking at AVA Rad's Wikipedia to see what movies he's involved with.
It's weird.
And
It's just a wave file of clinking jewelry. I don't know why.
Strange.
But anyway,
he is credited for Spider-Man: Homecoming, but only as
yeah.
a special thanks.
And you know what the special thanks are for? For teaching
Staying out of it.
us
Yeah.
to never try.
I was going to be Jack. Like, thanks, Abby, for never showing up to set.
Yeah.
Not one day. Appreciate it. All right, guys. Thank you so much. It's been Reasonable Beef. Have a wonderful evening.
I feel bad that we should. I'm sure all these guys are good guys. You know,
Cut to like the never work in Hollywood again list, and they're like crossing off Dom Farron.
Dom Farron,
Jack Howard.
Jack Howard. Oh, we're sorry. We're sorry.
Yep. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Punisher, do you have any threes?
Go fish. So, nice of you to join us for once, Spidey.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was out saving the world. Beating you guys at cards ought to be pretty easy.
Your spider sense won't save you here.
Look who's talking, Daredevil. You've been looking at my cards all night.
I don't need to look at your cards, Punisher. Your bluffs are so obvious.
Okay. Let's keep this a nice, friendly, clean game.
Who keeps inviting this guy?
Hey, will you guys keep it down?
Hey, loosen up, kids! I'm on fire!
Wait, hold on. Time out. All of you guys were working together, and you still couldn't take down Spider-Man?
It's not my fault. Doc Ock's plan was horrible. Everyone knows you can't control the symbiote.
Hey, wait! So, I'm a rhino, you're a scorpion, and he's an octopus. What's a Mysterio?
So, Rhino, you got any threes?
Hey! Hey, I got a bingo! Ha ha! You guys think you're so smart, but I won! Ha! Who's your daddy, Doc Ock? Ha ha ha! Victory is mine! You're always laughing at me, but who's crying now, huh? Ha 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 ha! Wait a minute, I made a mistake.